Hello and welcome to the 8th episode of the Neurodivergent Navigator Podcast. I'm your host, Kate Lamorne, and today I'll be discussing and exploring the term meltdowns. In this episode, we will look at a definition of what a meltdown is, what generally causes meltdowns, what meltdowns can look like, what are the effects that meltdowns can have, how to support someone going through or after a meltdown, and what meltdowns generally feel like, my experiences. I hope you enjoy. So, what is a meltdown? A meltdown, for autistic people, is an intense, involuntary and uncontrollable response from being overwhelmed or upset by sensory, social or emotional triggers, leading to a temporary loss of behavioural control. In simple terms, a meltdown is something that happens when autistic people feel really upset and completely overwhelmed, and they can lose control of their behaviour and find it very hard to calm themselves. Before I continue, I would also like to clarify 3 important things about meltdowns. Firstly, it is important to note that a meltdown is not the same thing as a tantrum. A tantrum is a manipulative outburst done on purpose to achieve a goal or get something, while a meltdown is not done on purpose. It's a genuine sign of distress. Second of all, it is important to know that a meltdown is not just a thing present in autistic children. Meltdowns can happen in autistic teenagers and adults too. It is generally just considered less likely for older autistic people, as they are more likely to be aware of their sensory, social or emotional triggers and how to avoid or manage them. And finally, allistic people, or people who aren't autistic, can also face meltdowns, but it's generally more common, frequent and harder to control for autistic people. So, what generally causes meltdowns? Well, meltdowns usually occur from and are caused by a buildup of overwhelming stress. And as I've said before, there is such a wide variety in the autistic spectrum. There are a variety of different triggers and different specific things that can upset autistic people, which can cause a meltdown to build up or happen. It can be different for different people, and different people have different limits. The spectrum is infinite. But some common triggers that can cause or contribute to a meltdown happening include sensory overload, being over or understimulated, which I talked about in the previous episode, changes in routine, uncomfortable or strenuous social situations or social demands, unmet basic needs like hunger or tiredness, or emotional situations such as intense fear, frustration, or anger that feels unmanageable. So, what can meltdowns look like? Again, since every autistic person is different, one person's meltdown can be way different to another person's, but meltdowns can generally involve vocal outbursts such as yelling, screaming, crying, or sobbing, physical reactions such as kicking, lashing out, hitting, throwing or breaking objects, rocking or pacing, withdrawal or shutdown, where a person could go quiet, hide, run away, shut down, or become nonverbal, not speaking. Meltdowns can also cause a temporary loss of basic skills. People can have difficulty with thinking, memory, or even basic skills like speaking. And it can cause physical symptoms such as heightened anxiety, tension, difficulty breathing, heat, or blurry vision. As I have previously explained, meltdowns are uncontrollable reactions and are not a choice, but it is also important to know that if a person's reaction to facing meltdowns is destructive or harmful and could cause harm to the person or to others, for example, if they react to meltdowns by throwing or breaking objects or hitting or kicking, you should try to seek sufficient support for the person or try to prevent harmful coping mechanisms by finding healthier alternatives to it. For example, if a person's first reaction is to hit things when they are upset, giving them a safe object to hit, such as a pillow, would be a healthier alternative. But what are the effects that meltdowns can have? Well, as you can imagine, going through a meltdown can be physically exhausting and emotionally draining on an autistic person. It can often result in feelings of self-blame or confusion afterwards, as people often have little to no memory of the events. Overwhelming meltdowns can also impact participation in everyday activities, could potentially damage relationships, and can make it generally hard to function. So, how can you support someone going through or after a meltdown? As I've explained, different things may upset and overwhelm different people, and various different types of support may be needed to help them. But some general ways in which you can support someone going through a meltdown or after going through a meltdown include staying calm to not further upset the person or yourself, ensuring the person is in a safe space, reducing sensory input, specifically the ones bothering them, communicating in a simple and clear way so that the person can understand you, giving them space if they need it, and being patient and waiting for them to recover by giving them the time and space to do so. After a meltdown, you can offer the person comfort or reassurance when they're calm. You should reduce demands off the person, not expecting them to engage in complex tasks or conversations yet. You should also provide reassurance and let them know it's okay to feel overwhelmed or upset. Then, when the person is fully calm, you can try to discuss what happened with them. This will allow you to identify what may have triggered them so that you and the other person are able to figure out what things may cause meltdowns for them, and you'll be able to plan to prevent future meltdowns. So, what do meltdowns generally feel like? Well, for me personally, when I go through a meltdown, I'm the type of person to cry and sob and want to hide away and isolate myself. When I am in that overwhelmed state, I basically shut down and lose the ability to speak, going nonverbal, not being able to get my words out or think clearly. Sometimes I breathe heavily and feel a lot of anxiety in that state too. However, the ways in which you can support someone going through a meltdown that I have listed, I would say definitely help me when I go through a meltdown. By providing someone with support, it can really allow them to notice the specific things that may trigger them. For example, I sometimes get overwhelmed by loud noises and sometimes cannot function or work in those loud conditions. By me and others noticing that, and by telling them about that trigger, it allowed them to be more aware that loud noises bother me and then know how to support me better. And now I feel reassured knowing that I can go to a quieter space or use ear defenders or headphones if I need to, which is a great help. When someone is going through a meltdown, it's not about solving the problem and then moving on. It's about seeing why they are upset and then being able to plan ahead to help them prevent future meltdowns and feelings of distress, so that they are able to generally function in their life better. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Neurodivergent Navigator Podcast. I hope this episode helped you learn about and get a better insight into what meltdowns are and the other elements to do with it. Have a great day or night, and as always, stay weird.